Hello, everybody. This is Catholic Dad, episode number 359, Thou Shall Not Judge. Well, anyway, that's actually not a commandment, but it applies nonetheless. Should we be judgmental of other people? Yes or no? Well, I guess if there's an intrinsic evil involved, but if it's a conversation and a matter of discussion, then no, you shouldn't be judgmental about things. And so I'm using this as an East Coast Italian perspective, moving to the West Coast. Not West Coast, I'm sorry, moving to the Western United States of America. And there's something out there, one of the big five personality traits. The big five are Ocean, OCEAN. So it's openness to new experience, conscientiousness, extrovertiveness, agreeableness, and neuroticism. I want to talk about neuroticism for a second. Neuroticism is essentially your threat response. So you have two people out in the jungle, right? And then like as they're evolving over time, right? Human beings as they're coming of age, and the bush moves, and one person says, "Oh, that's a tiger." I'm like really nervous, right? That's threat response, and the other guy's like, "Oh, it's probably just a chipmunk, no big deal." Well, if it is a tiger, the guy that thought it was a chipmunk gets eaten, and the guy that thought it was a tiger or whatever it was survives. And so, therefore, humans have this innate threat response, meaning that we perceive danger and aggression in places where it may or may not occur, and that leads to our very survival. That's something called openness to new experience. Anyway, I don't know if this is a Western homesteading thing or an Eastern like stability thing or not. You know, Eastern society was around a lot longer than Western society, and so therefore societies were formed differently. You know, the Westerners that went out, they really had to like. It was a mode of survival, homesteading. It literally was, what is that thing behind that rock? Is it a scorpion or is it a chipmunk, right? And so, yeah, it had to be a little bit, have higher neuroticism to survive out west than you did back east. And in turn, I would say that Easterners have much lower levels of neuroticism than Westerners. And I could be wrong about that, but in my own personal experience, like my openness to new reaction or my neuroticism levels one. Like I never perceive danger in front of me, or anger, or violence, or I don't perceive being attacked by anybody. Even when somebody comes up to me and calls me dumb and stupid, I'd be like, well, we have a difference of opinion. I don't really care. But other people who perceive things, like their perception, neuroticism levels higher, you go up to them and you call them dumb, stupid, and ugly, and they'll be like, you could take them down for a week. They'll be crying and upset. And so, therefore, here's the conversation now. When you have two people talking, they both have variable levels of neuroticism or threat response. And so, therefore, somebody from New York, I would say, would like, they come into a situation, they just want to tell them the truth, even if it's completely offensive to other people, right? Like, hey, I just want to tell you this, and they don't even think they're attacking anybody. But the ears of the other person, right? They perceive that they're being hostile or aggressive, and so it's a perceptual difference. Like one person desires or intends to tell the truth, and the other person just hears hate and anger, and this is kind of a problem. So therefore, the person who looks at the New Yorker trying to tell them the truth thinks they're an idiot, and it makes them angry. But really, should somebody trying to tell you the truth make you angry? No, it shouldn't. And then the person who hears the New Yorker saying it and becomes very defensive and angry and hostile towards the New Yorker's like, hey, what's your problem? It's such a snowflake. Well, are they really snowflakes? Because their psyche's tied up in a higher natural reaction, and New Yorker's psyche's tied up in a lower natural reaction. But yet we all are humans. It doesn't mean one is right and one is wrong. Now, if I had my choice, I love having low natural reaction because really nobody ever gets me bothered at all. Nobody ever makes me angry. And that's a much better place to be in my mind. But natural reaction does serve a certain purpose in terms of survival. And therefore, some people who have higher natural reaction, well, yeah, you kind of have to deal with them too. They are humans. And in fact, I've noticed, like in the Eastern society I came from, that New Yorkers are far less polite. Why is that? Because they have low natural reactions. Like they'll tell anybody anything that they're thinking at any point in time and not perceive it as offensive. Like, hey, dirtbag, get out of my way. Well, yeah, that's just saying, hey, do you mind please moving? Like, honestly, in New York talk, that's a very polite way of saying, please, would you move? Oh, okay, yeah, sorry about that. Didn't mean it. But out west, if you say, hey, dirtbag, can you get out of my way? Well, now game on, these people become kind of offended, and then offended people, that can lead to conflict and fights. And now I'm a physician, and I worked level 1 trauma center back in Syracuse before I came out here. And there's something that I noticed immediately in the hospital system is that barroom brawls back in Syracuse were far less dangerous than barroom brawls out in where I live now. And when I say far less dangerous, there aren't more shootings here or anything like that. But the fights are certainly more brutal, like more broken bones, more like pneumothoraces. Like you actually collapse lungs out here in a barroom brawl. But back in New York, occasionally you had a broken fist. Sometimes you had a little broken facial bone or a broken nose, knocked tooth out or something like that. But usually when the person hits the ground in New York, it's over. Everybody's like, "Oh, okay, good job," you know. But out west here, like literally when the guy hits the ground, it's time to start fighting, and like boots in the ribs, all the other stuff. And perhaps that's a natural reaction thing. The other thing I've said before is because I have low natural reaction. I'm a New Yorker by heart, by nature, and I do offend people accidentally. But I realize the people here are just as good as the people back in New York, if not better. They have a more polite culture because of that reason. You just don't share your mind whenever you want to share it. And so, where am I going with this? Where I'm going with this is don't judge people. Because if you perceive somebody's being overly aggressive, your perception could actually be the problem. Whereas if somebody perceives somebody's being overly defensive, it's your perception of their defensiveness that's over the problem. You may actually be coming off as very aggressive to them. Therefore, polite culture dictates that if somebody's becoming defensive, that perhaps you should back off. Unless, of course, there's an intrinsic evil involved. Like you don't sit there and hammer home on somebody getting upset. It just doesn't make any sense. And I've learned that, actually. It's enculturated me to the Western culture. I think I'm way more polite than I used to be. And I think I'm a better man for it, honestly. And so use that as a perceptual rule. Like, man, if you're going to go to battle with somebody, only go to battle over things that are intrinsically evil. Only do that. Don't go to battle over things like, I perceive that you were mean to me, or I perceive you were offensive. That's never a smart move, because it doesn't lead anywhere. Because A, somebody could be making a joke. You could be taking it the wrong way. Then you look like the idiot. Or B, even if they were being overly aggressive, you have no idea how the devil talks to them. Like if they were being offensive, well, then that's their problem, not yours. As long as they're not physically threatening you or, doing things that like you have to get defensive for. And so I guess that's it. Thou shalt not judge. Don't do it. You have no idea what people mean when they say things if you have a high natural reaction, or you have no idea how defensive people can get when they have a high natural reaction. So I guess this is a learning point for me, but it's also a learning point for people that are particularly defensive. Realize that Catholic Dad's never had a malintended thought in his entire life, honestly. I don't want to hurt anybody. I love all people. And so if I ever offended you, too bad for you. No, anyway, please like or subscribe, get the Mass, pray the daily rosary, and God bless you all. And this is the Sabbath day, so try to keep it holy. God bless you all.